Now it's CSL, Charlotte Sports Live.
With the 8th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Teteroa McMillan, wide receiver.
Right now on Charlotte Sports Live, there you go, the newest Carolina Panther. Kind of a shocker. So who is Teteroa McMillan? Why did the Panthers pick him? What do fans think about it? All those answers and more coming your way right now as we welcome you inside Bank of America Stadium. This is Charlotte Sports Live. We're here where the Panthers brass has been very busy in the war room tonight, and they will be over the next couple of days. Alongside Michael Sett, I'm Gabe McDonald, former Panther Al Wallace, going to join us in just a bit to break everything down.
And tonight on the Big Show, we'll hear everything draft-related from Panthers general manager Dan Morgan. Plus, we'll get a reaction from Panther fans on the pick. But first, Gabe, let's meet the man of the hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Teteroa McMillan, also known as Nalo or T-Mac, coming to Carolina with the 8th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft as their newest wide receiver. So, obviously, he's coming and Carolina's hoping that he will be known as soon as wide receiver 1. That's really what you expect from the 8th overall pick. The Panthers are betting on him to blossom alongside quarterback Bryce Young. Now, many thought the Panthers would address the NFL's worst defense with their first-round pick of this year, and it's pretty safe to say that we didn't expect this. But McMillan will tell you he plans to make an immediate impact here in Carolina.
Oh, man, I think it's going to be amazing. First things first, obviously, Bryce Young, Cali to Cali connection, that's immediately. And as well as, the other receivers, Xavier, Adam Thielen. And I feel like, our OC, Coach Izzik, will definitely, put it together. I know Coach Canales calls the plays, and, I'm confident in them, and they're confident in me. And, I'm just ready, to take the Panthers to the next level.
I like that dramatic lighting right there for his interview. This is not a star-studded draft class for wide receivers, to be clear, but Carolina was committed to putting more talent around Bryce Young, and they believe T-Mac is that guy. McMillan caught 213 passes for over 3,400 yards and 26 touchdowns during his 3 seasons with the Wildcats. Pro scouts say he possessed a possession receiver with the size and ball skills to win matchups down the field. He'll need to put that into his route running to stand at the next level. And for the best coverage, we got to turn to the best right here. Al Wallace joining us. How you doing, Al?
I'm doing great. I'm shocked like everybody else about this pick.
Yeah, we got our Black Blue Live kickoff analyst here. Just your immediate reaction to the pick earlier tonight when they drafted Teteroa McMillan 8th overall.
Yeah, didn't see this coming. You guys mentioned it, 32nd overall defense. You thought this Panthers team, Dan Morgan, Dave Canales, would address that side of the ball. But what they did was invest even more in Bryce Young. We saw what he was able to accomplish last year at the end of the season. They went out, they got him another big target, 6'4", playmaker, ball skills through the roof, and it's Teteroa McMillan.
They're looking for a number 1 wide receiver. That's what we talked about going into the draft. Do you believe that this guy can be that guy?
I think he can develop into a number 1 wide receiver. Right now, Dan and Dave both said he has to earn it. He has to come in like all rookies do, and he has to prove that he belongs as that wide receiver number 1. The good part is they have the veteran and Adam Thielen. Xavier Legette is going to get back in there. Jalen Coker, another young guy as well. So go out there and earn it. Prove that you deserve to be that number 1 wide receiver. But 8th overall pick, you expect him to be that guy eventually.
You mentioned the struggles they had on defense. So, we all know historically bad unit. So last year, why do you think Carolina, they felt like they had to make a splash on offense with this first-round pick this year?
Oh, well, I think is you build a board. You rank these guys and you put them in order of position of need. Yeah. And I think when they looked at their board, they saw Teteroa McMillan and said, you know what, he's the guy. We're not going to pass on a guy that we have rated over maybe a Jalen Walker or some of the other guys, Tyler Warren, who was still left on this board. They picked the best player on their board, and it makes sense to them, and you have to ride with it, and we'll see how this develops.
There's certainly plenty more to focus on today, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But for now, though, the Panthers still have a boatload more picks to make over the next day or so, and we'll look ahead to day 2 with you coming up. For now, though, let's take a look at this. Looking at Carolina's last 3 rookie classes, it's been a mixed bag. 18 guys have been selected over the past 3 drafts. 12 are still on the roster. Got some swings and misses along the way. GM Dan Morgan hoping for plenty of hits this time around, and we caught up with him right after Carolina made their selection tonight.
Well, we're joined now by arguably the busiest man in this entire building tonight, Panthers General Manager Dan Morgan. Dan, you guys taking Ted McMillan out of Arizona with that 8th overall pick. How did you guys come to that decision? We heard you in the press conference. You guys had the conviction on him. Yeah. How do you guys come to that decision?
Yeah, it's a long process. You know, obviously going through, the combine. We met with him there, and then we had him in here for a 30 visit. Just got to know him a little more, and the combination of watching the tape, and then getting to know him as a person, I think it just really put us over the top on him. Just the kind of person he is, and then obviously he's a great player on the field. He's really going to help us out, and we're really excited about him.
The announcement took a lot of people by surprise. Were you playing poker this whole week?
You know what? Not really. Some people, I don't think they think that I'm a good poker player, but
I will defend you on that one. You were pretty darn good.
I'm a little bit, but hey, it's one of those things where we had conviction on him. There's a lot of great players in this draft, a lot of guys that were worthy of that pick. At the end of the day, we just felt like Ted was our guy.
You mentioned all the talent in this draft. We know, this defense wants to make a lot of improvements from last year.
Yep.
What led to the decision to not get a defensive guy? Because you obviously played linebacker for this very franchise, and you want this whole team to become great. Just what led into that decision going with offense over defense?
We're following the board. And Ted was the top guy, at the time on our board. That doesn't mean that we're not going to attack defense. We attacked it in free agency. We have 8 more picks. So defense is definitely in play, and it's something that we will address.
How much did Bryce Young's opinion factor into your decision?
Actually, him and Bryce know each other really well. So, just kind of talking to Bryce knew him, and, he actually got to throw with him a couple times. So, obviously, Bryce, I ask his opinion on things, and I'm going to take his opinion always. And, it definitely plays a little bit of a part, but, I think at the end of the day, the guy and then what you see on tape is what it really puts it over the top.
You mentioned what you see on tape. Obviously, there's going to be, a heck of an adjustment for him coming to this next level. What do you see as maybe his biggest challenge is adjusting to the scheme and just the speed of the game at this level?
Yeah, just coming in and, learning the playbook, getting to know his teammates, all the physical and athletic tools are there. It's really up to him to come in here to work, which we know he will, and, just kind of gel into the offense and get to know the playbook, and then, I think we'll be off and running.
We talked about needs going into the draft. Now, I think the need for you guys was a new number 1 wide receiver. That's a tough spot to be in as a rookie. Is he ready to be that guy now?
He has to go earn it. Like any other player that we bring in, they got to come in, they got to earn it. So, he's no different. And, we have some good wideouts on this team, so he has some competition for that number 1 spot.
And last one, we know those diamonds in the rough, they come in the later rounds. How hard are you guys going to attack? Because you have still 8 more picks at this moment, barring any trades. How hard are you going to attack these next couple days to find those guys that can truly help this team in those later rounds?
Yeah, I think, the work's already done. So, I know we have targets. We have guys that we really like, 2nd through 7th round now. There's a lot of guys, a lot of talent still out there. So I'm excited to see who falls to us at 57.
Certainly a long weekend ahead, but a busy man indeed, making Ted McMillan the 8th overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. Dan, I always appreciate your time, man.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely.
So McMillan joins this list of former number 8 overall selections by the Carolina Panthers. Most recently, it was J.C. Horn in 2021 out of South Carolina. Before that, Christian McCaffrey was the 8th pick in 2017. Maybe the most famous 8th pick in franchise history, tackle Jordan Gross. He spent his entire 11-year career with Carolina and is in the Ring of Honor. Finally, back in 1996, running back Tim Biaka Batuka was selected at number 8. So what do fans think about the current pick in Teteroa McMillan? Our Casey Funderburg found out tonight.
Now that the Panthers have their guy, they're not the only ones excited to welcome him to Carolina. The fans are equally as excited to see him in the black and blue. And the Roaring Riot, they gathered at the Dilworth Grill to cheer on the Carolina Panthers, and they couldn't help it but be excited the entire time that new pick, T-Mac, crossed the stage at Lambeau Field.
The Carolina Panthers select Teteroa McMillan.
A pick many fans were shocked to see.
I was so surprised. I wasn't even sure they were going to pick a wide receiver. I thought we were going to go defense all the way.
But one they're excited to watch paired with Bryce Young.
Very happy we got another target that can go deep. Being 6'4", that makes him a larger target.
Even though Teteroa wasn't on fans' radars, they're ready to welcome him to Carolina during the Panther Walk on Friday.
I am looking forward to the walk. I'm hoping to be there. It's calling for rain, but let's hope it's not, right? tomorrow we'll see him at the walk and the welcome walk. So welcome aboard, T-Mac.
Even though tonight's pick was a surprise for a lot of fans, they're just excited to see him out on the field at Bank of America Stadium. From Dilworth Grill, Casey Funderburg, Charlotte Sports Live.
Appreciate it, Casey. The work is just beginning for the Panthers front office. With so many more needs to fill out this roster, day 2 of the draft may be just as important as today. We'll look ahead coming up next on Charlotte Sports live from Bank of America Stadium. Back here on Charlotte Sports Live, Operation Upgrade on paper for the Panthers has been a success so far this offseason, and changes have mostly come on defense. Carolina bringing in Tershawn Wharton to hunt quarterbacks. He signed a 3-year deal worth over $54 million. Another position in need, safety. They got Trevon Merrick away from the Raiders. And they have edge rusher Patrick Jones, who signed for 2 years. Bobby Brown III and Christian Roseboom both joined the black and blue from the Rams. And then on offense, Chuba has backup. Former Cowboy Rick O'Dowd signing a 1-year, $3 million deal with the black and blue. Pretty much a tryout contract for the rest of the league to observe while Jonathan Brooks recovers from his ACL injury. And then on special teams, J.J. Jansen is snapping to a new punter as Sam Martin comes over from the Buffalo Bills.
So who's departed? Miles Sanders, for one. He wanted a chance to prove he was the man. After getting released, he is now in Dallas. Also gone is special teams ace Sam Franklin. We're going to miss him. He signed a decent deal in Denver with the Broncos. The tight end room was full, so Ian Thomas is the odd man out. He's now with the Raiders. Dane Jackson went back to the Bills. Safety Xavier Woods is a Titan now, as is punter Johnny Hecker. Another safety has moved on. It's Jordan Fuller. He's with the Falcons, and so is tight end and special teamer Felipe Franks.
And while we're here at Bank of America Stadium, it's assumed Chuba Hubbard is not here. He's either en route to or already in Green Bay. But don't worry, fans. The running back will only be announcing Carolina's day 2 picks from the NFL Draft. Hubbard is one of 6 active players who will take the podium and announce their respective teams' 2nd and 3rd round selections. The Panthers have 57 and 74 overall tomorrow. Back here with Al Wallace to talk day 2 draft needs. Now, if you've been following Charlotte Sports Live since January when the season wrapped up, we said the main needs for this team were wide receiver. They addressed that with Teteroa McMillan, but also edge rusher and safety. So with the first round about to wrap up shortly, let's look ahead to day 2 and who is still left on the board for the Carolina Panthers at the safety and the edge rusher spot. Of course, first up you have a guy like Donovan Nazakaru out of Boston College. He's on the smaller side for the position at outside linebacker, but scouts say he's perfect for a 3-4 defense, which is what the Panthers run. Nick Scourton is a name you've heard all last year because he is simply a playmaker, a big frame on this guy. Landon Jackson out of Arkansas needs a little bit of work, but he is still very fundamentally sound. And then you have Princely Umanlian out of Ole Miss. He could be the steal here. He knows one mode, and that is forward. His sole job is to get to quarterbacks.
But what if they go safety? We don't anticipate Malachi Starks being on the board, so let's look to a defensive-minded squad in Happy Valley. Penn State's Kevin Winston Jr. is one of the most potentially sound defensive players in the draft. Only question mark here is his stability. He's a bit injury-prone. Meanwhile, big Xavier Watts from Notre Dame is a ball hawk, goes to where the ball is going to be and not where it's at. We know about Nick Omanwore. Many saying the Gamecock might be better than Starks. The Longhorn, Andrew Makubu, extremely athletic, and Lathan Ransom from Ohio State might be the most underrated defensive player in the draft. He's extremely physical and will leave offenses looking for answers. Al, a lot of people tonight upset the Panthers did not go defensive. Is there a chance to kind of rectify the situation the rest of the way with the remaining 8 picks?
Yeah, of course. There's still a lot of good football players out there. I think we named a lot of those edge rushers, but safety is a position that you can put back there with Trevon Moehrig, and now you've upgraded that position significantly over the last couple of years. If you want to be good on defense, you need pass rush, but you also need guys on the back end that take the ball away, and safety is one of those positions that can get that done.
Absolutely. And when you look at day 2 and day 3, those are the guys where you find your true diamonds in the rough. Some of the guys that can end up being stars for this team. But when you're playing musical chairs as a team in a front office, how hard is that to be able to find guys in those later rounds when there's a lot of shuffling around?
Yeah, it's what you pay your staff for. It's going in the lab and getting it done and really doing your due diligence to make sure you find those guys that have the traits and the skill sets that match this defense for Ejiro Evero. So you can find really good starters. I think over the course of the Panthers, those second-round picks have really been gems.
At this point, what's more important for the Panthers, preparation or being able to adjust on the fly based on on who's out there?
I think adjust on the fly. That board is constantly changing. You're ripping names down.
Yeah.
You're evaluating and putting guys up. So being flexible in your evaluation and readjusting your board is key for the next 2 days.
Yeah, certainly will be interesting to see if they make any moves up. Of course, that next pick not until 57 in the second round. Do have the 74th pick as well, so we'll see if Dan Morgan plays a little bit of poker and makes a little moves tomorrow. But we've still got a lot coming up on Charlotte Sports Live, including more talk about the other team that calls this stadium home. Charlotte FC off to a great start so far this year, and whatever they're feeding those players for the crown, keep it coming, because the home cooking is certainly working. Coming up, we preview their next matchup at the Bank this weekend against New England.
And the Canes have Game 3 coming up tomorrow against the New Jersey Devils, and could we be seeing a new face on the ice as soon as tomorrow? We'll hear from GM Eric Tulsky next.
Back here on CSL, and tonight you might be wondering, why Green Bay for the draft? Obviously, Green Bay is an NFL city, and the Packers have had a lot of success over the years. They did win the first 2 Super Bowls back in the mid-1960s. Green Bay pushed really hard to host an NFL draft once the league took the draft on the road beginning in 2015. And it took some convincing, but they got it, and they plan to make a great impression throughout the entire weekend.
I think going forward, I think we'll see. That'll be kind of the legacy is, what this draft meant to the community. I think people will look at it and think, Green Bay's not a bad place. Might want to live or work there.
Fun fact for you, this is the first time the NFL draft is being held in Green Bay, but it is not the first time it's being held in the state of Wisconsin. The 1940 draft, 85 years ago, was in Milwaukee. Back here alongside Michael said, and while the Panthers do play here and they're busy in the war room, they're not the only team that calls the stadium home. The other one off to a pretty good start this year, Mike.
That'll be Charlotte FC. This is their home sweet home, and they're not just calling it a home, they're calling it, as you know, a fortress. And that is not just a nickname, that is a way of life here as they come into this place, and really they do not like it when enemies come in and take victories away. To say the crowd has been anything less than stellar at home this season, well, it would be an understatement. They're a perfect 5-0-0 on their home turf, and they'll try to keep that record alive this weekend when they take on New England Revolution.
It's always important, the home results and the home performances, because our supporters demand that, and we demand that of ourselves as well. It's nice having a perfect record at the moment, and it'd be great to keep continuing that and growing that. So our home performances at the moment have been good, and we need to continue that.
I saw Coach scoping out the grounds earlier tonight. He's always watching. Saturday's kickoff at the Bank, set for 7:30 p.m.
Well, from the pitch to the ice, the Canes will be back out on the ice tomorrow for their Game 3 matchup against the New Jersey Devils. The Canes took games 1 and 2 on home ice earlier this week. Now the script flips to playing on the Devils' home ice, a place where the Canes have struggled this season. They actually split the season series with the Devils 2-2. Both losses came on the road in New Jersey. Not to mention a new face might be joining the Canes, not necessarily for this series, but GM Eric Tulsky says they can have a new addition, defender Alexander Nikishin, on the ice as soon as tomorrow.
I expect we will sign the deal any day now. It's just working through some things. If we felt like we needed him on the ice in the next game, we would get the contract in and have him ready to go. So there's nothing that's getting in the way of him being able to play for us. We've agreed to terms. We haven't signed a contract yet.
Game 3 between the Canes and the Devils set for 8 p.m. on Friday night.
All right, to the world of racing, where we saw a first for Kyle Larson today. The Hendricks driver experienced his first crash at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Happened during a test run of the 2.5-mile oval. As you probably know by now, Larson is attempting to complete the double by racing in both the Indianapolis 500 and the Coke 600 next month. Larson says the crash was caused by a mistake on his part, but fortunately he was checked out and is doing fine.
Definitely some great news there, and certainly something from tonight's NFL draft has to get a QC crown, right? Only one way to find out. We wrap things up with Al Wallace coming up next, live from Bank of America Stadium, right here on CSL. Back here on Charlotte Sports Live, just one QC crown to hand out, and it goes to the first player from a school in the Carolinas to be drafted in this year's class. North Carolina running back Omarion Hampton going 22nd overall to the LA Chargers. Sure to make a nice 1-2 punch with Najee Harris and Jim Harbaugh's offense. Omarion over 1,000 yards after contact, third in the country this year, 4.46 40 at the combine at 221 pounds. sure to be a good addition out there. So day one, just about to wrap up. Got a few picks left. The Carolina Panthers obviously taking Teteroa McMillan, back here with Michael Sett and Al Wallace. Al, just, your overall thoughts on day one as we now look ahead to day two, and the Panthers still have 8 picks left.
Yeah, just surprised right away. The Cleveland Browns trade out of that number 2 spot, and Shedeur Sanders. And then Shedeur Sanders, right? He finally finds out where he's going to go. So I think all of it is exciting for me to watch this draft unfold, the trades and the picks, and waiting for day two.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be a pretty special time. And just some, wrapping up the day two, I think you're just looking ahead. The Panthers making some moves, and I think it could be interesting next few days. You want to see Dan Morgan, this front office, really hit on those middle round picks.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to go after defensive players, and they're going to look to fill in those holes that don't have guys there.
Yeah, definitely want to build a lot of depth over the course of this draft, and that's going to do it for our CSL draft coverage for day one. From Michael Sett and Al Wallace, I'm Gabe McDonald. Good night, everybody. We'll see you here again tomorrow night.